We all know that modern companies love fees, and there are so many different kinds. Late fees, cancellation fees, rebooking fees, overage fees, restocking fees, overdraft fees, early termination fees, missed appointment fees. Some rental agencies will even charge you a fee for returning the car early. Yeah, you heard that right.
But what's really frustrating is that when the company screws up, there are no repercussions at all. If Amazon delivers your package late, you can't hit them with a late fee. If you take a sick day to wait for the cable guy and he never shows up, or if you spend all afternoon on the phone over a billing mistake, or if you have to drive all the way back to the store to return a carton of rotten fruit, no one's going to compensate you for your wasted time.
And we've all just kind of accepted that that's the way it is. Consumers have to toe the line, while companies can overcharge, miss deadlines, cancel orders, and generally inconvenience you in ways that cost real time and money without so much as a, whoops, our bad.
But there is a very specific legal reason why the playing field is tilted like this. And if some businesses get their way, it could get worse.
You may not have heard of contracts of adhesion before, but you've likely agreed to dozens in your lifetime, if not hundreds. Every mortgage, car loan, or credit card requires one. So do most jobs, from part-time burger flipper to salaried employee, as well as subscriptions and software from Netflix to Fortnite. Even everyday purchases like power tools and mattresses can involve some kind of adhesion contract.
The most famous example is probably the terms and conditions you're supposed to read, yeah right, and agree to before using a new app or update. But they can also be formal printed contracts you have to sign on paper, like the kind you'd get from a bank or a landlord. Some are even just fine print at the bottom of a web page or instruction booklet that says something like, by using this product you agree to yada yada yada, but though they may come in several different flavors, they all share one big thing in common.
Contracts of adhesion are legal agreements in which one side has all the negotiating power, and the other side has to take it or leave it. You can't haggle with Netflix over their prices or insert your own clauses into a credit card agreement. If you want to use a service or work a job or live in an apartment or even just play a video game, you have to accept whatever terms are put in front of you.
Contracts of adhesion have been around since at least the early 20th century, when the Industrial Revolution made it common for businesses to hire large numbers of people in identical roles and sell identical items to large numbers of customers. It would have been impossible to write down and negotiate a bespoke contract for each one of these relationships, so in the name of economic efficiency, contracts of adhesion, also known as standard form contracts, became a commonplace, enforceable way for companies to set expectations between parties on a mass scale.
It's arguable that modern life wouldn't be possible without them. However, whenever one side gets to make all the rules, there will be some rules that are a little one-sided. If you've ever created an Amazon account, you've agreed to not blame them if, say, their software gives you viruses that erases all your data, and accepted that they can cancel your orders, delete your purchases, or terminate your account forever at their own discretion.
If you have a mobile phone plan, you probably agree that your carrier can change their prices at will or alter your phone's data remotely without notification. And if their services fail, the absolute most you're entitled to is a prorated credit to your account, even if you lose work as a result or can't dial 911 in an emergency.
I guess we have no one to blame but ourselves. The reason companies can hit us with fees, but not vice versa, is because we've agreed to it. It's not like anyone forced us to click accept.
Maybe not, but in practice, contracts of adhesion aren't so simple as take it or leave it.
For one thing, very few people actually read the terms before accepting. And studies show that even if they did, most adults can't fully understand the legalese they're often written in. That creates a lot of opportunity for companies to sneak in terms that people would otherwise find objectionable.
And for a lot of consumers, walking away just isn't an option. In a perfectly competitive marketplace, some businesses might offer fairer terms than others, but in reality, contracts of adhesion tend to be pretty uniform across industries. If you want a car, or a phone, or a mortgage, no matter who you go to, you'll probably be agreeing to the same basic terms.
And finally, there's a lot of social pressure to sign on the dotted line. Yeah, you don't have to subscribe to Netflix or Spotify. You don't have to be on Instagram or TikTok. You don't have to go to sports games or rock concerts. But the loss of social participation is too great a cost for most of us. There was a time you could watch television and listen to the radio without signing a one-sided contract. But today, it's become the mandatory price for access to popular culture.
And this can have some pretty wild consequences. In 2023, a woman died of anaphylactic shock after eating at a restaurant in a Disney resort, even though she was assured by the staff that her food contained no dairy or nuts. When her husband sued, he was informed by the company's lawyers that when he signed up for a free trial of Disney Plus several years before, he had agreed to give up his right to bring them to court for any reason forever.
This is one of the most popular and controversial elements of adhesion contracts, forced arbitration. In order to do business with them, many companies require you to waive your right to a jury trial or be part of a class action lawsuit. Instead, you must take your dispute to a private third party, often paid by the company, who renders a final verdict which cannot be appealed.
Forced or mandatory arbitration was conceived as a way to save time and money when two parties of more or less equal standing entered into a business relationship. But over the last 100 years, companies realized they could foist it upon employees and customers alike, and today, it's an almost ubiquitous element of contracts of adhesion. It's estimated that over half of all non-union workers in the US have given up their constitutional right to sue their employer. It's no mystery why companies prefer arbitration. Studies show that plaintiffs are far less likely to prevail with an arbiter than with a jury, and when they do, settlements are typically much smaller.
Without access to the courts, there's really only one other way to protect consumers and employees from lopsided contracts: legislation. Congress has passed several laws that curtail exploitative or unfair provisions, like shifting responsibility for credit fraud onto cardholders or prohibiting customers from posting negative reviews.
A more recent provision that has garnered controversy is the non-compete clause. A non-compete clause stipulates that if a worker leaves their job, they cannot work for similar businesses for a certain amount of time, usually 1 to 2 years. In the past, they only applied to high-level employees to prevent them from sharing trade secrets or customer lists with competitors. But companies have increasingly required low or entry-level employees to agree to them.
In a famous example, the sandwich chain Jimmy John's required all employees to sign a non-compete agreement that prevented them from working at any other business in the area that made more than 10% of its revenue from sandwiches, which would virtually include every restaurant for 2 years. Since the idea of a minimum wage kid sharing trade secrets with Applebee's is outright ridiculous, the only purpose of the clause seemed to be to keep workers dependent on their current employer and thus more tolerant of shoddy treatment.
Studies show that non-compete agreements depress wages, limit worker mobility, and make markets less competitive, which is why the Federal Trade Commission passed a rule banning them in 2024. Though the ban was overturned by the courts, a number of states have passed their own laws to curtail this widespread and often exploitative practice.
This is a rare example of a controversial agreement getting national scrutiny, but the real power of contracts of adhesion is how routine they are. We tend to think of them as necessary at best, annoying at worst, if we think about them at all.
But that invisibility cloaks a growing effort to induce consumers and employees to give up certain rights. The right to a jury trial, the right to privacy, the right to look for a new job.
It may be impossible to avoid contracts of adhesion, but we should at least know what we're agreeing to.
And that's our 2 cents.
Thanks to our patrons for keeping 2 cents financially healthy. Click the link in the description to become a 2 cents patron.